If I can, James Ryan, conservationist and councillor from the Hunter Valley. My question is about community consultation. We've heard some of the speakers just say that they advocate reducing community consultation and restricting it to the strategic planning area. My question, I guess, is to Mr Moore and Minister Hazzard. This is a historic moment, rewriting the Act. My experience is that community groups and conservation groups are always at a disadvantage compared to the planning profession and the development industry when it comes to consultation. How is this consultation process going to really ensure that meaningful consultation with community groups and those of us not in the profession in constructing this new Act?
Well, I've been doing what I'm supposed to be doing since midnight last night, but I'm happy to give you my first impression of how Ron Dyer and I will go about the consultation process. The first is it will be largely listening. Second, that it will be wide flung, and that if we go to your area, for example, to listen to people, that is to be to councillors, council staff, community groups, those who wish to undertake development in the region, and the whole spectrum of interests. And it's at least my disposition that we would go to an area for a day and that we would have a series of sessions during the day and during the evening in order to acknowledge the fact that like today, there would be very many people who would not be able to be here because they have employment commitments otherwise, and to do so, and that the notes of what is said and put will then be made available through a planning inquiry website so that everybody can see what is being said by everybody else, and that process will take, I envisage, somewhere between 2 and 4 months, and that we will be absorbing that before we start even tentatively suggesting what might be even a principal framework for the next stage. It must be something, as I say, that we need to hear from everybody. We do not expect everybody to agree. If you did, as I said earlier, it would be both boring and short, and this morning's discussion has certainly demonstrated it will be neither of those.
One of the things I find interesting, there's been very fine words this morning.
You have to identify yourself, please.
Yeah, sorry, yes, I'm Warren Mundine. I'm head of NTS Corp, the Native Title Service Corporation for New South Wales and the ACT. A lot of fine words were said this morning about transparency and governance and everything like that. I have some major concerns, and just looking at that group up there, besides Patricia, it's a nice, fine-looking group of men. Just wondering where the traditional owners of New South Wales involvement's going in this process. And there's a reason why I raised this, because you're talking about the 40,000 houses a little bit earlier that's going to need to be built in this state. That means that Landcom and other people are going to be releasing lands, and we've had a pretty good Supreme Court victory in this area about this happening. So we want to know about, is this government actually going to be, this planning process is actually going to be seriously taking those things into account?
The answer is yes. I mean, as you know, Warren, I've known you for donkey's years, and you would know that I was the Shadow Minister for 11 years for Aboriginal Affairs, and certainly happy to take on board, and you've raised the issue this morning, happy to take on board. If that's not being done, we'll make sure that it is. If you've got any suggestions, give them to us. And I'm sure you will, Warren.
I will add for my part that despite the fact that I was a Liberal Cabinet Minister in New South Wales, I spent 3 years as a senior public servant working for Paul Keating as the Secretary to the Council for Aboriginal Reconciliation, and I am very mindful of the need to consult with the traditional owners of country.
Just with a system that's been in for 30 years, Brent
name, rank
Callister,
and serial
Northern
number.
Rivers, local government, town planner, system that's been in here for 30 years. Obviously, people are immersed in that system, and so may not be able to see beyond that system. I found the comment from PEP very interesting. I and a colleague here have worked under the Resource Management Act in New Zealand, and pretty much what Pep was saying was mirrored that system in New Zealand. I'm just wondering, with a significant review of the Act, if there's any consideration given to considering other systems, such as New Zealand or the Queensland integrated planning system.
The answer to that is yes. There's not too many advantages, I have to say, about being an opposition shadow minister, but you do get to talk to a lot of people, and I've been the shadow minister now prior to this period of government for 4 years, and indeed I've raised that issue with the Director General as well, and I'm looking to try and organise as we speak a gentleman who's currently in Columbia University who's worked with the United Nations. He's got a profound understanding of the sorts of issues that are being addressed across the world in terms of best planning practice. So that's all part and parcel. But what we're talking about, I guess, today is our local consultation and making sure that the local community are heard. But yeah, we'll certainly be addressing those issues. And if anybody has any suggestions, please direct those to Tim, because Tim understands that we're looking not just at what might be seen as being, in the first instance, a reasonable outcome from a New South Wales perspective, because I agree, and we all agree, that we're seeing it from a very narrow perspective, or many of us are anyway. We need to look much further afield.
My name's Andrew.
Don't interrupt when he's saying good things about me. Thanks,
Okay, I'll change my...
That's why I stopped you.
Okay, Andrew McAnulty from Mission Australia Housing. I'd just like to criticise the Minister.
Oh.
I'd like to thank the Minister for his focus on the importance of housing affordability as well as growth of housing, because I think that's fundamental in terms of having well-balanced, integrated communities, which I agree, are walkable and well-serviced by wider infrastructure, shops, transport, schools and play areas. So, but housing affordability is such a core nugget within that. I'd also just like to highlight to the panel the opportunity that there is within New South Wales specifically for urban renewal opportunities. We've got the largest public housing stock in the southern hemisphere within New South Wales, much of which will be needing to be redeveloped or replaced over the next 20 to 30 years. So it's a significant opportunity for New South Wales to lead the way in actually affordable housing policies and urban renewal, which will allow mixed tenure, increased density housing in very well located parts of the state. So lots of work ahead, but it's an interesting starting point.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Thank you. What Andrew's talking about, by the way, is that there was some necessity to change a particular aspect of the affordable housing state environmental planning policy because of community concern, which I did. But at the same time, Andrew's been asked to chair a review, and there will be others reviewing how we actually deal with the issue of affordable housing. It's a mighty challenge, as many of you would know. And it has to engage all levels of government. I think Julian Disney's been doing some work in this space. Julian was my old law lecturer many years ago, and I'm very conscious of the fact that it needs not just federal, but state, local, and the business community, the development industry itself, who are interested in the space, but have found it very challenging as well.
Sue Weatherly, Parramatta Council. Just a couple of issues I just wanted to raise, and that's the need for perhaps a planning system that's not a one-size-fits-all approach, that there are isolated rural communities that perhaps don't need the same integrated approach perhaps that Sydney must need, and the need for us to engage in a way where people understand the planning system, making it a bit simple. I think the LEP template's an example of an introduction that hasn't helped in understanding the planning system.
Has or hasn't?
Hasn't. And the final point that I would make was perhaps for the need for an understanding that the Act is not the planning system. It's just part of the enabling, and the issue, and I think a couple of people raised it about the need for culture and practices to also be changed.